If you watched my last video, you probably noticed that I brought up a manga called Stage S, and I told you guys to watch out for it. I also said that I wouldn't be making another manga video and there'd be a regular video, but I decided to make another one because I looked up Stage S on YouTube and there's not really much content about it at all, to be honest. And that's kind of what I said in the video to begin with. And I did blame that on the hiatus, but I'm not really sure because I did find it very recently. I'm very glad that I did find it because this is definitely one of my favorite manga right now, and it's ongoing. I probably found Stage S a bit different than a lot of other people, especially back then. The way I found it, it was just on my Explore page on Instagram because I follow a lot of manga art pages and I follow a lot of manga art in general. I can show you guys the exact panel that drew my attention to it. It just looked like something very unique that I wanted to get into. I will find it and I'll just put it in the video. Basically, I found it off this really cool panel. It showed like some type of beast. I didn't know what I was really getting into when I first started reading the manga, but it was a lot different than what I did expect. The first few pages of Stage S throws you around a little bit by mentioning that, well, the character is going on a monologue mentioning that his parents passed away, so it kind of starts off looking like a shonen or some type of revenge manga, and he kind of mentions that he's an atheist because of the event of his parents' untimely death, until they show a panel showing that he says in this moment he believes in God, and it's him holding a what would seem to be his girlfriend's hand or something like that. Then the manga actually starts and it just looks like a regular romance until you come across this a snake with a horn. You can tell by the dialogue that he's a very important character as he's talking to the main character, like the main character is below him. A few pages later, the snake finally convinces Meguru that he is a god by knowing things that only a god would know. Pretty ass, by the way, not gonna lie. He tells Meguru to have faith in him being a god, and he also tells him that he will die soon. The next few pages seem to be a flashback to a date that Meguru took his girlfriend on. I couldn't really tell the first time reading, but knowing context now, it's definitely a flashback. It shows them going on a date at a theme park and having moments, and when they finally kiss, the pages flash forward to Meguru leaving her because he knows he's gonna die soon. And literally that same exact day, while he's sitting at the bus stop just minutes after he leaves her, he looks into a puddle and the water turns black. But as he looks up, he sees a fucking 18-wheeler getting ready to hit the girl that he just left. So he rushes out of his seat and pushes her out the way, putting him into the perfect isekai moment, just like the snake foretold him. He wakes up in this white blank space, facing Kurohebi once again, which is the white snake that I was talking about before, proving that he is a real god. As Meguru begins to crash out because he clearly didn't want to die after he just now was becoming happy, finally finding somebody to give him purpose in life, the snake shows him a vision of that same girl passing very soon. The snake tells him he has 100 days to save her, or she will be killed by another god named Kurohebi. My bad, I called the white snake Kurohebi. His name's Shirohebi. I forgot. I don't know why their names are so similar. That's pretty. I don't like that. Meguru begs to save his girlfriend though, and Shirohebi tells Meguru if he agrees to kill the god, Shirohebi will grant him the power to change Sarah's fate. Meguru swears that he will kill the god for Shirohebi, and after a few flashbacks, he gets reborn. This is actually one of my most favorite panels in the series, and it's only in the first chapter. This is probably the first panel that really made me get excited for this series because I realized that it wasn't going to be some type of regular romance and some more like a shonen or maybe even a seinen type of series. It also made me very curious as to how he's going to explain how he came back to Sarah and whoever else was there, and how long he's been dead. As you can see, his body is reforming. He gets reborn and the snake is now attached to his head, I guess to serve as a guide of some sort, kind of like an RPG or some shit. Meguru looks into the sky and sees a large black storm approaching, kind of alluding to the black water that he's seen earlier. The snake tells him that that is the god that he needs to kill. As it begins to rain this black water, every droplet of water that touches Meguru's skin begins to grow and embody these eyeballs, and the snake tells monsters that Kurohebi creates to kill and eat humans. Meguru then comes to a realization that if he has to kill Kurohebi, just like how he swore he would to the snake to begin with, then he's gonna have to kill a lot of things in his way. In that moment is where I'd say the story really takes a turn, and in the next few pages, things start to get a lot more gritty and serious. This is my actual favorite panel in the manga. It just shows the contrast of his behavior from worrisome and how he was crashing out earlier about being dead and how he could save Sarah to just locked in on killing everything in his path just to achieve his goal. In this moment, he kind of gives me Sasuke vibes, which I like personally, especially being attached to a snake and having snake limbs. This scene kind of reminds me of how Sasuke stopped Jugo and Suigetsu from fighting, but instead of restraining, he's killing them with this. His tone completely changes and he seems a lot more determined on just killing the god that he swore that he would. Shirohebe realizes that he hasn't even taught him how to use any powers, and he's using them to kill things that he probably should be afraid of. He then creates that snake tendril that he was just using to kill those eyes to manifest into this big prototype-like blade. I don't know if y'all know what prototype is, but that's the vibe I got from this weapon right here that he used. I wish he would use it more in this series, but it becomes something more true. I'm not gonna spoil. I do like what they did with it though. You find out that this here actually is not as strong as it looks compared to what he will receive and what he can actually use. Still makes for a cool scene though, and I do wish they would have kind of stuck to this design a little bit more. They might come back to it though, you never know. It's only on chapter 44. After he kills all those things, he kind of goes back to his regular tone and self-reflects being some kind of monster since he was reborn, and he has these demon-like powers, or I guess you could say god-like. He then looks up at the sky to end off the first chapter, and that's your introduction to the series. Now that I got that out the way, said that in the last video. If you heard of this manga, you already have known about the first chapter. Let me tell you why you should pick it back up. The introduction to the series kind of conveys it as, I wouldn't say a revenge story because the death of Sarah hasn't happened. He's just trying to prevent it. It just looks like a main character straight lined on one goal. But once the characters start to get introduced in the side plot lines, which heavily bleed into the main plot line and affect everything, the series starts to shape itself into something more layered, I guess. The first major character that you meet besides Sarah is this girl named Kujira Mitsuami. First time that you see her, she looks to be just another side character, but she is a very key, major character to the series. Kujira is one of the strongest characters in the entire series. She's basically the Gojo or the Makima of this series, but unlike Makima, she actually decides to chase the main character as her love interest, as he shows no interest back, since his whole purpose for being here is for his girlfriend in the first place. I think it's a pretty cool dynamic that's not really used in any manga or anime that I've really read, and it's usually the other way around. The second major character that's introduced after this rebirth is this guy named Koki Hizami. I think I'm pronouncing that right. I'm not really sure. The two characters that get introduced in these chapters work for a big corporation named Toraden. To the regular humans in the world, Toraden is just a company that has the highest market shares for home appliances. But underneath that mask, they're really used to eliminate what's called filth. Those same things that were raining on Megaru when he was first reborn. Like Shirohebe stated before, filth is basically just the excrements of Kurohebe, which is the guy that the main character is trying to kill. And beyond this point forward, they start to introduce more of Toraden. They explain how Toraden works, and they show that even though Kujiri is the strongest Omni-emoji, she is not the head of Toraden. The Omni-emoji are basically just soldiers. When I said that Kujiri was kind of this series' take on the strongest, I'm kind of wrong. She's basically the strongest soldier in all of Toraden. It's not really clear that the president is the strongest or even stronger than Kujira at this point, but implying that she runs the whole operation, you can't kind of be against that fact. Obviously, Kurohebe is like the main antagonist of the story. At the same time as they introduce the president, is around the same time they introduce a lot more stronger filth. These filth are kind of fighting for Kurohebe and to try to make him rise to be more powerful. After Meguru meets the president, he's told that he is, one of the biggest hopes that they have got. Their main goal as Omni-emoji are to try to eliminate all filth. And if they can take a shortcut just to kill Kurohebe, then they're going to help him achieve his goal as fast as possible. This story doesn't really take that long to kick off. You kind of get grasped into it in the first chapter. They start showing off more powers that are in the world. Looking at this panel right here, this reminds me of Aki's cone that he can summon just a little bit. I kind of like this design more though. It seems more unnatural and it kind of fits the tone of this series. But people have their own filth and people have their own, I guess, summons. I kind of forgot what the summons are called. Oh, they're just spirits. They're just called spirits. The power system is wide and the type of characters is pretty cool. I like when series have enough world building and like lore building to introduce different species, especially this early on, trying to getting you introduced to more things while also continuing to keep the plot moving forward and introduce some more serious characters. I've been recording for 50 minutes. The video shouldn't be 50 minutes, but I've been recording for 50 minutes, so I think it might be time I wrap this up. If anything that I said to you today made you want to read it, or anything that you saw today made you want to read it, I greatly encourage you to read it. I tried not to say as much as possible. There's a lot more things that I love about this series that I couldn't get into without spoiling. I haven't read anything that I distasted from the series so far. Even the training arc was pretty fun, and I think it was paced very well. And a lot of stuff was going on outside of it to keep you very entertained. And it's not just pointless get stronger training. He learns some new traits and he learns some skills that he's gonna need to take down stronger filth. Being a vessel of a god, he obviously has low-key a cheat code, but that just means things will take shorter time for him to get stronger, which is kind of good for the series, and it's definitely a trait that I appreciate. But I'm gonna save that for the people that's gonna read it, and I think I'm done talking for this video. So if you enjoyed the video, like, subscribe, join Bliss. Love you guys, and that's all I really have for you today. Read the manga. Please read the manga. All right, bye.